Welcome back to Collider Jedi Council. I'm Kristian Harloff, a.k.a. Darth Harloff, and as you may or may not know, this is a Star Wars show. We talk about everything in the world of Star Wars. It is indeed. And we talk about everything in the world of Star Wars, and we're excited to talk about stuff. I'm sure there'll be some stuff that one of my council members will not be too excited to talk about, but we're going to do it anyway. First, I'd like to thank the council that's here with us today. You know him. You love him. He is Obi-Wan Kenobi, John Campea. What's up, dude?
So excited to do Jedi Council. And just to answer, I actually had two people tweet me this week asking me if that story about when I was dating Anne and then found out she had never seen Star Wars, did I really lay out an ultimatum that you got to watch these or I'm not sure this can go any further? The answer is actually yes. You can ask her that yourself.
Good. You know what? I've always respected you, but now
it's a whole new level,
more,
right?
Much more. Joining us, she is becoming a super regular, super favorite on this show. She is the Smith Lord. She is Tiffany Smith.
AKA The Last Resort.
Well, you're better looking than Mark Ellis.
The winning resort.
The winning resort.
You know, I mean, I feel like Mark's pretty cute, so you know, I'm like, yeah, maybe close. Right. But before we get into the news, I was talking to you about this when I walked in
please
today.
Tell this story.
This is insane to me. So we talk about Star Wars every week
almost.
Here and then just everywhere. So I'm at Disneyland. I'm standing there with one of my guy friends. We're talking about Star Tours.
This is a guy that.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, these two of my guy friends.
Wow.
So we're standing in line. I'm like, let's go on Star Tours, and he's like, it kind of makes me a little nauseous, whatever. And I was like, well, me too. I think it's a contact lens thing, whatever. So I'm like, but I'm definitely going to go on it when they start putting new stuff in for the new movies. And he's like, oh man, would that be awesome if they came out with a new Star Wars movie? And I like paused for a second. I looked at him and I was like, that's funny. He's like, what? I was like, they are coming out with this new Star Wars movie. He's like, when?
One a year.
I was like, in December, the new one comes out. And he's like, that's awesome.
He hasn't left his house since.
And I was like, dude, he's not on any kind of social media. So no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Doesn't use a computer?
He does use a computer for just emails. He's a musician. So he's like, I just kind of am outside of that world.
So he's naturally stupid.
He's not stupid. He's not stupid. But then he did say, he was like, what's awesome is he only has to wait like less than 3 months to see the movie.
Point.
We've been waiting over a year.
That lucky son of a bitch.
Is this where the term ignorance is bliss comes
yes,
in?
Because he's had his head in the sand for God knows long. I've been sweating on my flight. just don't crash so I can make Star Wars. Just don't crash so I can make Star Wars. I don't think about my family. I think about Star Wars. And this guy has been, there's no Star Wars movie. It's only 3 months.
If I'm standing there, I'm just like, you and me are done. And then he say, what?
No!
I'm like, good day, sir.
No, because then you say, awesome, I'm going to get you more into this. Let's talk about this movie. But then another friend showed up, and I was like, another dude.
Who are these people?
And I was like, hey, another musician. I was like, hey, did you know that there's a new Star Wars movie coming out? And he was like, what? I was like, how are you friends? Like, I host shows about this stuff.
This is a joke.
They were dead serious. Dead serious.
Come on this show, you guys. Both of you guys. We're going to teach you some stuff. Okay, so we are talking about Star Wars. Now, the Smith Lord is going to be filling in for Mark 2D2 today as far as letting us know what the stories are. And the first bit of news that we get to is simply known as Star Wars movie news. Everything we talk about in this particular category is stuff that links back to whether it be Episode 7 or Episode 8 or any of the anthology movies or Star Wars stories, whatever the hell they're called now. We will talk about it. All right, Tiffany. What's first?
Okay, so first up, I think Kristian was making a reference to this story a minute ago about John, but Hayden Christensen may possibly return as Anakin Skywalker in the new movies. So, Kristian, I'm going to let you talk first before it derails into anger from John.
What are you talking about?
So this report, I thought that it came from Heroic Hollywood, but that's where I originally read it. It did not.
No, it didn't. They didn't originate.
I think it came from Making Star Wars.
Well, it came from somebody that they heard it from.
Okay,
yes.
So we don't really know where the hell it came from. So it came from somebody who decided they wanted to make up a rumor.
And the rumor, how it actually started, it wasn't that he's going to be in it. It was that someone was going to be training Hayden Christensen.
Oh, right. Okay.
To get back into Vader shape? What does that mean?
Well, it says Making Star Wars was told that a team in the UK are soon heading to the US to begin training Hayden Christensen, like Tiffany said. But like the one thing though is that Making Star Wars, they've hit some pretty legit scoops so far that turned out to be true. That being said, I'm not saying this is true, but let's take this on two levels here. The first being whether or not we think that it's true, and then if it is true, how we feel about it. I'll start with the fact, do I think it's true? No, I don't. I don't think that this is true. I don't doubt that they heard it. I don't know, because I think it's such a risk. Even the backlash so far that this maybe fake story has gotten, you've seen what Hayden Christensen didn't, a lot of people didn't respond to him as Vader. That being said, if it was true, I would not hate this. I know that hearing myself say it is strange. But because Hayden Christensen is working with Rian Johnson and not George Lucas. Now, we're not taking anything from George Lucas as how he writes in Legendary Vision of the reason we have this show right now. But as far as directing and working with actors, doesn't have the best reputation there. If they were doing a Force Ghost or even, a flashback scene, a Rian Johnson flashback scene with Hayden Christensen, could be interesting, depending
Force
on how they
Ghost
use
takes
them.
no training, though. Force Ghost is just him, like, standing there.
True. You're right.
In a robe.
Right.
He's not going to be, like,
So
lightsaber fighting.
It could go back. I just hope is the one thing. These silly rumors about how they're trying to clone Vader. I hope that is garbage. I do not want that to be true. I know you're about to lose your mind, so I'm going to wait for you for a second. I want to wait. Tiffany, what do you think about this? First, do you think it's true? And then second, would you care?
I feel like it's one of those things where when has Vader not been involved in any of the new stuff moving forward? Rebels started and it was like, is Vader going to be in it? And then we got Vader and everyone was really excited about it. So it makes sense that there's a rumor surrounding the new movies to say, okay, is there going to be some kind of flashback? Are we going to see Vader in some way? Because even in The Force Awakens, we've got the mask. So there's a reference to him in some way.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back in some form or another. The interesting part to me is the training. Because if they're saying they're going to train him, it's not a Force Ghost. I think it could be in a flashback kind of format. And I think that could be really cool because I do think even watching Clone Wars, you got such a better impression, a better vibe on who Anakin is. And Anakin's become one of my favorite characters because of the Clone Wars. So if they can kind of take some of that and funnel it into what Hayden would do in this new movie, I would be into it.
I can feel your anger. What do you got?
Well, I mean, okay, but seriously though, I mean, in the words of the great Mahatma Gandhi, bullshit. I'm pretty sure he said that.
He did say that
at some point.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Now look, okay, let's get back to this. First of all, making Star Wars. You're right. They have put out some very legit stuff sometimes, but I trust you. There's a difference between you coming to me and saying, John, I know for a fact, I can tell you right now that Brad Pitt is going to be the new Iron Man after, RDJ leaves, right? There's a difference between that and you coming to me and
That would
saying,
be terrible.
I heard from a guy, and I don't know if it's true, but I heard some guy say that Brad Pitt might be. There's a big difference between that, and that's what's going on here with making Star Wars. Making Star Wars isn't coming out and saying, we can tell you, we can confirm for you, Hayden Christensen is going to be. No, it's like they wrote themselves, and I kudos to them for how they wrote it too. They were very upfront about it. It's like, we've heard from somebody, we don't know if this is real, we heard this was happening. So I don't buy it for a second. But that being said, let's look at how this maybe could be true, or why could somebody be forgiven for buying into this and maybe thinking it's true. Hayden Christensen is Darth Vader. We know that Kylo Ren is a Darth Vader obsessive. We know that he's going around collecting things of Darth Vader. We see him oh so gently and affectionately stroking the Darth Vader helmet and everything. He's got an unhealthy attachment to Darth Vader. So all that being understood, there would be reasons why you would be forgiven for maybe thinking there's some legitimacy to this. Absolutely there is.
Well, not to mention the fact that also they said that they're props that showed up on the Rogue One set of the chest plate from Vader and the helmet.
Well, I think he's supposed to be, Vader's supposed to be in Rogue One. Now, whether we're going to see it, but here's the other thing that goes against it, though. While J.J. Abrams has never come out, let's be clear about this, has never come out and said, I want nothing to do with the prequels. Everything he has done up until this point has screamed, I want nothing to do with the prequels. And so the idea of them bringing in such a loud, vivid, visual reminder of the prequels.
But wait, J.J. Abrams said that. Rian Johnson didn't say that.
No, understandably so, but I just can't see J.J., who will be a producer on that one.
Correct.
I just cannot see them doing it. I will not say this is impossible.
What would you think of it? What would you think of the move, though?
It would be a horrible decision. You do not want to remind people so clearly and so vividly of the
But
prequels.
you also
just don't want
can't
to do
pretend that they didn't happen because
Right.
they did.
I understand.
You can pretend they didn't happen.
No, you
they
can't.
did happen. But then remember, we are how many years? We are 30 years separated from Return of the Jedi, which means we are 50 years separated from
Give
the
or take,
prequels.
yeah.
You can easily pretend they didn't happen.
You can. Now, I'm on both sides of this too because I think that there is that. The thing is that even when you played that joke at me a few weeks back about Rian Johnson leaving, and I lost my mind, is because I really want to see a Star Wars world with Rian Johnson directing.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
Now I give him. He's one of those guys. If I was running the studio, just do it. I want to see it. Just do whatever you want to do. So if he thinks that Hayden Christensen can work, and he now paints a positive spin on those times, I'm interested. But it could backfire, going like you said, because if people right away, like you said, it's going to be like someone farted in the theater, like right away. It's just it happens right away. It's like, what is that? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay, that wasn't that bad, because it was a Rian Johnson fart, not a George Lucas one. All right, that's where we went.
It just seems like a bad idea. It would. I like very different. I'm just using this for analogy's sake. They're two totally different situations. But it'd be like saying, hey, we've got this great Hitler comedy bit we want to do. Let's go try it at the synagogue and see how it plays there.
Right.
It just does not feel like introducing elements
That
of the prequels.
made no sense.
Introducing elements of the prequels into a new Star
Right.
Wars. That is your opportunity to get over what the prequels did to the reputation, to the fan community.
But you don't
of
think.
Star Wars.
But what if Ryan? Because that's the thing though. Because going off Tiffany's point before. With the Clone Wars series. Now, I know you particularly weren't a big fan of the series, but a lot of people were. And myself, and I think, Tiffany, you being one of them, or two of them, they did a really good job of painting what the Clone Wars was. And even though it was set up in that, the Roger times. But I'd really like to see, it'd be interesting to me to see if they did flashback what the Clone Wars looked like through Rian Johnson's eyes. And then if Hayden Christensen happens to fit in there, but that's
well, and I think it's
flashback.
you look at Star Wars and it's not pulling something just from the prequels because Anakin and Vader are such a central part of the whole entire story. I mean, even in all the books that are coming out that are canon, where it's like Vader's still involved. So to me, if they were pulling something like more obscure, like if they ever were like, oh, look, there's Jar Jar in the background, I'd be like, please, no.
Right.
But
Right.
something like Anakin or bringing him in where it's like, I mean, we feel the same way about Ewan McGregor, where it's like Ewan comes back and it's not a bad taste in your mouth because he's a good actor. I think Hayden was put in a really crappy spot because there have been films where he's been really great in. So I feel like
I have yet to see those films.
One movie. Yeah, I know what you're thinking
My life,
of.
no, My Life is a House.
Yeah, My Life is a
He
House.
wasn't bad in that.
And he
But
was
then
in
really
Paper
liked.
Towns, or not Paper Towns. What was the one? The glass. The glass
Oh,
house. or
Shattered Glass. Shattered Glass.
I
I
did
really
not
liked.
actually think he was very good in that.
Oh, I like
he
that
was
one.
terrible in Takers. He was in that one where he was
Jumper?
He was in Jumper, which he was terrible in.
but that
Remember
movie
that
wasn't
one? I
great.
think he did with Jessica. I think it was Jessica Alba, where the whole movie is while he's having open heart surgery. But he's what's that?
Awake. Yeah.
Awake.
Yeah.
He was
Okay, I
awful
didn't
in
see
that.
that one.
He's a good Canadian kid.
But-
I should be cheering for this
he's
guy.
not, but he's
but-
not going to lead the movie, and
No.
and as far as I don't think it's going to happen. But all right, Tiffany, what's next?
So speaking of something cool that we definitely do want to see, they just released the virtual 360 tour of Jakku on Facebook first, I believe.
Yes.
It is so cool. You get to go by the Star Destroyer. You're on a speeder. What did you guys think? Did you I just stayed in this world for a pretty long time.
We actually talked about this on Movie Talk today. It was myself, John, and Josh McCougar, where we talked a lot about this particular thing. There was one person on the panel that was very excited about this news.
You.
It was me. And I think that it is something that is very special from what they're doing to this technology. And to me,
Just looking at John's face, I'm like, John doesn't care.
No, he doesn't care. As a Star Wars geek, to knowing that this planet, you're basically on Daisy Ridley's speeder, and you're seeing that Star Destroyer that I know now how it crashed, which is even cooler. That it was fun to me. I think that your two friends would be clueless. They wouldn't know what's going on with this thing. But John, go ahead. Tell us why you don't like this.
Kristian, you are so easily amused.
No.
It's nothing. It's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's cute. It's very interesting technology. You're driving through sand on a speeder. that you're not playing it, by the way. You're watching it. You're sitting down on the couch in the living room
But
with your buddy playing something.
There was and I can't remember. It may have been for Avengers, but it came out and you could do it on your phone and you moved it around and you could actually like direct where you were looking and where you were going. And it was much like this, where you weren't actually playing anything, but you could direct it. So it was more like virtual reality.
Oh, I know
it
what
was
you
so
was.
forgettable.
No, it was World of Warcraft or when you're in the dragon.
That was much more recent. I know what you're talking about.
This one just came out on like for your phone. Someone texted it to me. But so I'm like, if that's the next step for this, that's cool to me. I'm like, any way that I can kind of immerse myself more in it, even if it's for like 10 minutes that I get super excited about it and then I put it down, don't look at it again. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, like I said, I have no problem with this thing that they did. I have no problem with it at all. But it's, at the end of the day, it's nothing. It's, you get to see that thing we already saw in the trailer from a different angle.
Thanks a lot, Dad. All right.
Way to rain on the Force Parade.
What's next?
Wah, wah. Next up, we've got the interview with John Boyega in GQ magazine, and he's talking about just the role itself, how it came to be. The most interesting part to me that came out of this.
I know where you're going.
What? You don't know.
Did I do Jedi in training?
No,
Oh,
that's
just
not
kidding.
actually what I was going to say.
Just
The
kidding.
two things that I thought were most interesting was that he said it took 7 months of auditions, and that reading the script made him cry. That to me was,
I'm with you. That's the part that got me.
so
too.
telling, so cool. But what did you think, Kristian?
I agree with both of you guys. The 7 months is encouraging, means that they're looking for the right people, and they're obviously auditioning great people. You remember all those rumors of all the people that were going in there? It's everybody was going in there. So it was great to see that it took them that long. They're really they know obviously how important it is. But like you said, the fact that he cried and that he says, "Look, I'm not a big crier," but I happen to think in my head predictions that I've made of why
It's Han. It's Han.
of why he is crying. But the main thing that I really picked up on, and I don't know if it was a goof on GQ, style icon. John Boyega plays Finn, a Jedi in training. When was that ever said to anyone?
I think
Just because he has a
maybe when
saber?
we saw the Struzan poster and he's and he wasn't like Han on Hoth holding the saber. He was.
It's a lot of assuming, though.
Sure, no, absolutely,
Yeah.
you're right. We are still in that thing. I think, look, this thing amongst not just Star Wars fans, it's all film fans, where it's like you want somebody in this movie who really loves the source material. It doesn't matter squat if they love the source material or not. It really doesn't matter. There has never been an instance of somebody who loved their source material more than, I forget his name at this point, but the dude who directed the Jeremy Irons Dungeons & Dragons movie. That dude was so passionate about Dungeons & Dragons, you'll lose your mind, and we all know how that movie it makes no difference. You want to get somebody in who's professional, who knows what they're doing, and will bring out a great product. That's all that counts. But as a Star Wars fan, there is something very comforting when you understand how much Boyega loves this world. It doesn't mean he's going to do any better at it than if he didn't love it quite as much.
Yeah.
But as a fan myself,
Right.
I feel more comfortable and confident and, dare I say, connected to him as somebody in the movies, because I know he shares that passion that we have. It's not just him talking about crying reading the script. If you read the story, heard him talking about, I think it was a celebration, telling the story.
Oh, with his mom and
about
dad.
telling his mom and dad. And
That he waited.
Yeah.
the highlight of his life.
Yeah.
To tell him that. There is something, it doesn't mean he'll be, look, if he's not a good actor, that won't suddenly make him a good actor. But there's something about that, like I said, makes me feel even more emotionally connected to the movie because I know the guy who's starring in it feels the same way about this property that I do, and that's a very cool thing.
I think through all the interviews with him, he's one of those actors that has, like you said, has made you feel so connected to him, and not any way has it been manipulating. It's like him just talking about it,
feels
like
so
even
real.
seeing him at Celebration, and I got to interview him for Fandango stuff, and he was just such a fanboy about it. And you're like, yes, it doesn't make him a better actor for the role, but it does make you feel that much more connected to him. And you're like, okay, if he read the script and he's a fan and it emotionally resonated with him and he wanted this role that much, I was like, man, I'm on board. And on top of it, for whatever reason, you feel like you're his friend. So when he says, like, I was waiting for 7 months, all I think is, oh my gosh, imagine not telling your friends for 7 months, or telling a couple of them, being like, I auditioned, and they're like, did you hear? And you're like, No,
Yeah,
I'm going in again.
Right. Well, but going off your guys' point too, as far as hearing him talk about how great the script is, and because, like you said, it's not going to necessarily mean it's going to be that much of a better movie because the fan said it, but he doesn't feel like a used car salesman just trying to sell his movie.
Yeah.
He's very aware of the fan base, as we've seen him at Celebration, as we saw him at D23. He knows what this property means to other people. He's very aware of that, so he's going to choose his words. Like, he's not just going to say, this script made me cry, guys, so you should see it December 18th in IMAX.
Well, the thing that he did say that stood out, that I was like, choosing his words wisely, is he's like, he's my favorite leading man. He said that, like the leading man line, and I was like, okay, that's telling, because we haven't really heard that his character is the lead. I mean, obviously we know he's one of the mains, but we didn't know he's a lead.
Right.
So that to me was kind of cool. And this magazine just comes out today, I guess. So we actually haven't read the full magazine. So if you guys have, let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. Okay, what's next?
All right, next up, we've got Gwendoline Christie talking about Captain Phasma. She's doing the press tour for Mockingjay and got asked some questions about it and really got a little bit more in depth with her character, which I just love everything that she says about this character. Kristian, what was some of the stuff that stood out to you?
What I like about it is, and to give credit here to StarWars7News.com, by the way, they put together a lot of great special articles and put together a lot of these stories that we talk about, but they had made the point that they're not so sure that we're going to see Gwendoline Christie's face. And it also and let's say we don't. This goes to show that this role itself, played by a strong woman like this, to where she is so good on Game of Thrones. She is so good. This character of Captain Phasma is going to be a character, I think, that stands out almost as much as Kylo Ren. I think that we're just getting a lot of marketing for Kylo Ren. We got some marketing of Phasma, but I almost think she's going to be like the Vader type figure to whoever is the leader, whoever we find out is the leader, whether it's Snoke or anybody else. But as far as her comments, it's just the comparisons of playing what she does on Game of Thrones and what she's doing here, and how JJ has really, encouraged this role. But that's what I took out of it. But John, what did you think?
The thing that stood out to me the most in that thing was, and what gave me a lot of confidence in her in this role, is that she wanted to zero in on this. She started talking about how I wanted to focus on how she holds her hand,
right?
About where she shifts her weight, how she moves and carries herself. She understands it. This gave me tremendous. Whereas listening to Boyega's comments made me feel an attachment to him as a fan. Her comments made me feel like, wow, this character's in the right hands, because she is thinking as an actor. And she's not thinking as a Star Wars fan.
Right.
She's thinking as an actor. And it reminded me a lot of David Prowse when, of course, Darth Vader is James Earl Jones's voice. But if you watch Vader move, there's a Vader character just in the physical presence of him.
Right.
And when she was in this interview, she's talking a lot about the physical presence of Phasma. And I think a lot of us can overlook that. And to know that she's in this movie and she's playing this role and she is thinking about those kinds of details to give us that screen-owning kind of character because of the performance she's putting in, that's what stood out to me that I walked away with.
Tiff?
I also love that she said, they didn't give her super specific direction on what they wanted to do with Phasma, that she got to really get in there and mold the character more. And she talked about, there aren't that many similarities between her character on Game of Thrones and this character, but the thing that is similar is the fact that she's like, I never think about what my face looks like, or if I look, as a lot of female actresses do, that they look great on camera in the moment. It's like she could really just be in those moments. And I think that lends itself really well to them saying, we may not even see her face in this whole movie. And that she said she wanted to make sure that people knew that this was a female character. And you even see that with the first poster that came out, where it's like you said, how she walks and how she positions her weight, where it's like certain things that you see and you're like, yes, that's a more feminine character in ways. So I appreciated that, because I not hate it, but I feel like it would take away from the character if she was like, I wanted to walk like a man and be like a man. And
especially
in this,
if she wasn't taking off her
yeah.
own,
And in this one, it's just like, I can still be feminine and female in this film and be a dominating villainous presence.
And you know what? And the thing too, a credit to Star Wars here, what they've been doing a lot of is that there have been, and it all feels organic in Rebels, in a lot of the novels, in the comics, there is a strong female presence now for the characters, and it doesn't feel like, oh, we just need to put more women in there. No, this feels like characters that belong. Like one of the ones that stands out to me, regardless of what you think about Aftermath, the book, Ray Sloan, who was in that and in in New Dawn. Very strong character. Some people, rumors start popping up that Ray Sloan might be Finn's mom, which is interesting. I like that. I like that rumor more than anything because that's a character that you only really get from the novels, but she's a newer character where it doesn't have to just tie back to Lando or tie back to Mace Windu. It's like, so it's good to see that there's this strong female presence now in the Star Wars universe. Totally. Okay, what's next?
Next up, Oscar Isaacs is talking about the movies, and this was an interview with a French outlet, and he was just saying that there's going to be tons of twists and tons of turns, and that we have no idea what to expect. Right. What were some of the things that you took out of that interview?
I loved what he said about his character, because this also ties back to a little bit. I had mentioned that the young reader novel that I had, what was it called? Moving Target, about Princess Leia, and they mentioned Poe in the book about how he's trying so hard to show the Resistance what he's capable of, what he's doing. Like he's a big presence there. They just didn't mention in a paragraph. This is what he said about Poe Dameron. I play the role of Poe Dameron, an X-Wing pilot who is desperate to prove to others, but also to himself, he can be a hero. I think this character will appeal to fans because it brings a lot of humor to the film. This new episode of Star Wars is full of surprises and twists, and fans will not be disappointed. I care less about the twists and surprises. I'll deal with that when I'm sitting in the theater. But I like to know a little bit more about Poe because we haven't heard a lot about him. He's kind of been one of the guys that's, you know him when you talk about him when you see him. Oh, Oscar Isaac, cool. But we're really talking about Kylo Ren. We're talking about Phasma. We're talking about Finn. And to understand a little bit more, I love the idea that he said because it brings a lot more humor to the film. That goes to me back to this is the new Han Solo of the film. I think he's gonna play the Han Solo role once Han Solo dies after Episode 7. Tiffany, what do you think?
Again, I just really enjoy the fact that this is an actor-driven movie as well, where he says, JJ asked me to come and meet with him. I didn't really know what role I was going to be offered. He talked to me about a role, and then he let me offer some input into changes that I thought could maybe be made with him and things that I would want to do. And he's like, it could have lost me the role, but JJ was on board. So that to me is so cool because we've talked about in the past, that JJ is an actor's director and that maybe George was not quite so much. But this opens it up where it's like the Gwendoline stuff where they wanted her to really figure out who her character was. And that's what happened with Han Solo, where it was like Harrison Ford went in and made that character who he wanted it to be. So I think that just gives me so much more confidence in all of these actors because obviously during the casting process, they saw what they wanted in them. But then the fact that they want to bring their own vibe to it and their own kind of twists and turns and little things, twists and turns. I wasn't trying to go off his interview, but that was what really stood out to me.
John?
I think, I mean, you said exactly what I was going to say. Everything that I see and hear and read, particularly here, lends itself more and more to this is our new Han Solo archetype. Even when Han survives into Episode 8, we are going to see because you even just look at the picture. Even just look at the picture. He's he's dashing. He's also got there's a personality quirk in him as well because he gets commissioned by Leia herself to go and do this thing, and there's a part of him that is so on the surface, I'm the guy to do it, but underneath the surface, am I the guy to do this?
Yeah.
Which is all very Han Solo-ish. And I love, look, some people could look at this disparagingly saying, oh, they're just going back and doing what they've done before. No. That type of a character is needed, I think, in a film like this. There's a reason why you get a guy like Poe Dameron in this. Now, look, don't worry. He's not going to be, be careful how much I say. Gotta be careful how much I say. Don't worry. He's not exactly like Han Solo. He's not going to be exactly like Han Solo, but there's soloisms in him that I don't think they tried. I think they try to play on it a little bit.
Well, I think it's also when you just describing the character, Han would never show up and be like, I want to be the hero. And the way Poe is described is, I want to be the hero. Right. I want to prove that I can be that hero. And so that's where I think the difference in those two personalities will come out.
And I think this plays into being a fan of the canon material because this is a spoiler for you guys if you haven't read Shattered Empire. So fast forward, pause it, and fast forward about 2 minutes here. You've been warned. In Shattered Empire, we're pretty sure that we see Poe Dameron's parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And they are part of the rebellion.
Yes.
So
and our pilots.
I don't. So what I think I started kind of piecing together some stuff in my stupid head, and I saw some. I can't remember some material that I saw. It sure looked like BB-8 was in the back of Poe Dameron's ship in one of these pictures that I saw. I wouldn't be surprised if Daisy Ridley is a romantic interest to Poe Dameron, and because he knows that she's. I'm just saying. I think that's how it's related. As opposed
how
to
does the background? How does BB-8 in the background of the picture?
Because she has him. She has BB-8. She has BB-8.
I love that just following where BB-8 is to you means romantic interest.
I'm telling you, it's like you don't just lend your little droid. You don't just lend BB-8 out. You give it to someone that you care about.
Someone that you love.
Someone you love. Okay, all right, honey. BB-8. He's a good can opener. But I don't know. We'll see. But I think he's gonna because there's going to be romance in this movie. The question is with who.
Well, that also makes me think when you talk about Shattered Empire that something that his parents do is so heroic, which is what drives him to want to become a hero as well. Where it's like seeing what his parents did, a lot like with Ezra in Rebels, where it's like we don't necessarily know what's going to happen with his parents in the end of that issue run. It's a limited run. But if they do something and possibly don't make it out, which who knows at this point, but that would be a real like driving force for Poe to be like, I'm going to be a pilot and I'm going to do something heroic too.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
All right. Our next story is Anthony Gruber has been talking about vying for the role of young Han Solo. This was from Star Wars 7 News. We've obviously seen tons of photos with him and Harrison and how much he looks like a young Harrison. And then he did the film Age of Adeline with Harrison Ford.
Playing the young Harrison Ford.
Yeah. So, John, how do you feel?
Well, okay, look, you have to get over your initial reaction because when you watch this dude's, I mean, I'm sure most of you have seen it by now. If you have not, look it up. If you've seen his little YouTube video of him just sitting there doing Han Solo, your initial reaction is, get this guy to play the young Han Solo because he does a terrific Han Solo imitation. However, if you then go on and watch Age of Adeline and actually watch him act in a feature film, and you think, is this the guy to carry a Star Wars movie on his own shoulders? No. No, he's not. He's not the guy to do. Not yet. I'm not saying this guy can't become a great actor sometime in the future. But if you just watch that imitation video, full marks. I've never seen a better Han Solo done. There's one guy who also does Robin Williams.
Yeah, he's good too. Jamie Costa.
Yeah, he's really good too. But honestly, I've never seen a better Han Solo done than what this kid does. However, when you take him out of the playpen and you put him into the real major leagues of a feature film, I don't have the confidence.
Yeah, listen. Here's the thing with Anthony Gruber. We've been able to have the opportunity to speak with him as well too. He is hardworking. He is looking like he even told Star Wars 7 News that he wants to play it. He's trying to make it happen. Like what I said, I even actually tweeted to Lord Miller about this as well too. He at least deserves an audition, like an audition. Like I think because
I'd agree with that. I'll give him that.
I happen to think the Kingsman kid is going to be your next Han Solo.
I do too.
I think that is the guy. You can pretty much almost a lock. I think it's going to happen.
Just that one line alone in the movie at the end, I'm like, he's Han.
Yeah, like in the NC-17 Han. But I do think that he talked about it in this article about it. There was one point where he actually was going to voice Han Solo in Rebels.
He didn't say Han Solo. He said voice a character in Rebels. And it didn't end up going.
You don't go out
fruition.
to this guy if he was going to do Han Solo. But
we'll know if Han Solo doesn't show up in Rebels, then we know that that's not the case.
Right. They may or may not have him come back to do it or do something. But the thing is, I think that to see if he could, because I agree with you, John, there's not enough for him in Age of Adeline and other things. He was found on YouTube doing great impressions, and he was able to turn those impressions into a role.
Huge kudos for that.
In Age of Adeline.
Huge kudos.
And he wasn't terrible in the movie, but like you said, John, there's just not enough from there to go, that's the guy that should be running to be Han Solo, one of the most iconic movie characters of all time. Give it to that guy, run. Hard to do, unless he goes in, auditions for Lord and Miller, blows the roof off the door. Roof off the door? Sure. Roof off the building. And then you go ahead and you cast him if it works.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting the Kingsman kid.
I also think it's, he's doing a really great political job of rallying himself for this role.
Yeah.
Every interview, he talks about how Phil and Chris are the right guys to be doing the job, that he loved Lego Movie, that, he's so prepared for this. He loves Star Wars. And so I'm like, he's doing a great job. I think, give him an audition. I mean, it's hard because to me, seeing someone do impressions is not the same thing as that person having their own charisma that they're bringing to the table.
Right.
And even hearing, like we talked about the other actors who were saying, you know, I kind of wanted to bring my own flavor to it. It's not that I don't want to see Han Solo as the Han Solo that we know and love, but he's a younger version. So there's going to be different stuff. It's not just doing an impression of the Han Solo that we see now, because how did he get there?
Right, yeah.
So he's going to have to be able to really make, this sounds so actory, but like make those decisions as an actor without looking to Harrison Ford.
Right.
Because that's not going to have anything to do. I mean, in partial ways, yes, but the younger version, I just don't think
It's a great point, though, because you can get caught up. And I think he even, when I spoke to him, though, he even said that he was during Age of Adeline, that they told, it's great, just tune Harrison down just a bit. Because I think because he's trying, that he knows in his head he was brought on to that movie, and if he does Han Solo, because he looks and sounds like Ford. But you start messing with yourself going, well, should I sound like him here, or should I make my own choices, like Tiffany said? That's why I think you don't have to worry about that with Taron Egerton. So that's the guy I think is going to be Han Solo. All right, Tiff, what's next?
Taron definitely had that charisma in Kingsman.
Oh, 100%.
For sure. The next one is that we've got some more information about where Rogue One has been shooting. They've been shooting in Iceland, and Mads Mikkelsen has been spotted there. Apparently, they'll be shooting there for about 3 months. That's a pretty sassy photo of him.
Do you want
like
me?
A sexy pirate.
I know you want me.
I mean, he looks like a sexy pirate to me, so the answer to that question is yes. What is shooting in Iceland and the fact that Mads there kind of say for you?
I think that's Yavin 4. I think that we're leading up to the Death Star. It looked like if you looked at the end of episode 4 when they're all meet up on that little base, it looks very similar to it. It just goes, we're just repeating ourselves, and I'll continue to repeat myself on this. I just love the locations that they're choosing. I just think that it really sets up other world, other planet. It screams rebellion to me, this particular location. And, you know, that he was seen there, well, yeah, he's shooting the movie, so that makes sense. John?
I feel like he just made a bet with somebody. He's like, you want to know how good looking I am? He doesn't speak like that at all. Want to know how good looking? Watch. I'll pick up this piece of discarded fish net and put it over my neck, and it still looks good. It's a fishing net. It's a ripped up fishing net he has hanging around his chest.
I feel like that's got to be from something else.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And it still looks good.
Yeah.
It still looks good.
It's from Ray's bathroom.
Yavin 4 makes sense. Yavin 4 makes sense. My one hesitation about it, though, is that when we see Yavin 4 in New Hope, it is a fully established military operations base, right? I don't think we are going to get a Rebel Alliance that's at that level of sophistication yet.
But you kind of have to, though, no?
But not necessarily. No, this is the rebellion. The sense I'm getting is that in Rogue One, because we're still a few years removed from A New Hope, right? My sense, and I could be totally wrong about this, I'm not putting a lot of stock in this, but my sense is that at this point, the rebellion is still trying to find its identity. It's still a ragtag group of resistance fighters that are kind of loosely connected to each other, trying to organize. But maybe it's further along than that. I mean, it's quite possible. The landscape is actually very much Yavin 4, but then again, Jakku was very much Tatooine.
Good point. Yeah.
Turned out to be something else. But I mean, is this picture from something else, or is this supposed to be him in his Rogue One outfit?
Ray just took it from his personal collection.
Oh, then Ray, well done. Because that looks like he would be. That he looks like a swashbuckling rogue in the Star Wars universe.
They did have some pictures that I saw online that the landscape looks a little bit like that. They did have some ones that were much more green and lush.
Right.
So, and I've never been to Iceland before, but I think they have obviously like a little bit of everything there. So again, it's same thing. I'm just excited they're not shooting in a studio and green screening it and like faking this stuff. They're actually going to shoot at these crazy locations, and that's going to help the actors to get even more into it. Yep. And yeah, that picture's pretty sexy.
All right, what's next?
Our next one is, whoa, man, this guy just keeps talking. Anthony Daniels is C-3PO talking smack about Luke Skywalker. In the week, there was an article that came out of Anthony Daniels talking about some of the actors from the films, his experience. I know we talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago where he talked about the fact that everything with Disney is so tight that he doesn't necessarily agree with the secrecy that's behind it. So he just let the floodgates open and starts talking about everything again.
I have to say, I mean, we talked about this last time, and it was about the secrecy thing, like you said, and we were just like, okay, shh. At this point, when he talks about Mark Hamill, I look at the camera and I say, "Shut up, Anthony Daniels! Shut your mouth when you talk about Luke Skywalker." He said about Mark Hamill. He's
basically
like,
said he was so handsome.
He's like, oh, he was a handsome. He says, oh, he was a handsome youth, and now, oh, the poor thing, like he's gone through this monstrous change. Like he looks like Gary Busey. It's like he is. Shush, he's your co-star, first of all, and you're going to be working with him, and it's like he's one of these guys, he just keeps shooting his mouth off. I'm still a huge fan of Anthony Daniels. There's no one else that should be playing this character. I know you all, I don't know if it's the same article where he's talking about Kenny Baker.
Oh yeah, same article.
Yeah.
Well, no, because Kenny Baker said that Anthony Daniels is one of the rudest men he's ever met.
So there you go.
So, I mean, he's not doing a bad job of backing that up when he's saying the stuff
What do you think?
saying. I mean,
You want him to shut up?
Like, what is the point of this? But there's nothing that's. I just don't understand when people decide to come out and say negative things about anyone in general, let alone people who you're starring in a film with. And again, it's one of those hard things because I'm like, maybe he was totally joking around. Maybe he's like, oh yeah, that Mark Hamill was super handsome back in the day. Look at him now, and then it's like laughing,
nice joke.
like. You don't, I mean, it could have literally just been like he's still like a ruggedly handsome man, but he doesn't say that.
Yeah.
I mean, in my nice mind, I'm thinking that that's what he means.
Yeah.
But
I wanted
just
to be a
don't
theater
get it.
actor, and no, I'm not. Boo-hoo.
And it's also, you usually hear this from people who didn't make it into the film. And so when he talks about Kenny Baker, he's like, well, Kenny's not doing anything in the movie really, but he's still going to get a credit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if Kenny Baker was talking all this smack, I'd be like, oh, okay, kind of sucks. He's bummed he's not in the movie. But Anthony Daniels is in the movie.
He's in all of the movies. Yeah. He's in every one of the movies. He's in the cartoons. He's in the battery commercials. He's in everything.
He's in the Ewok movies. Look, well, first of all, Kristian, remember back in 2012 when Tiffany Smith was pretty? Remember those days? Like how absurd is that?
Right.
Like that's basically what he just did.
Can you imagine? I mean, now look at that. Now look at her.
Look,
her smile's horrible.
To me, look, I've said this before. Anthony Daniels to me is Mr. Star Wars. He is Mr. Star. As somebody who went to see Star Wars in concert 3, 4, 5 times, I lost count. He is. You will have a very hard time finding anybody who has been a better ambassador for Star Wars as the decades have all gone by. This guy has been the biggest flag waver for Star Wars, and all due respect for all of that, and I love you, but shut up, because if you don't think some other 115-pound dude can get inside, you're the only one who can wear a gold costume and do this, you're freaking dreaming. Shut your mouth. I'm serious. I love Anthony Daniels. Yeah. I love him. But if I'm the GM of a sports team, and I've got a problem guy in the locker room making the chemistry between people difficult and making it hard on everybody, you know what I'm doing? I'm getting rid of the guy and I'm firing it. And I'm telling you right now, if I'm Kathleen Kennedy, as much as I love Anthony Daniels, if I don't pull the trigger right now, then I'm having a conversation with him saying, that's it. One more thing and you're gone.
If I'm Kathleen Kennedy,
I don't care how long you've been playing C-3PO. Right. You are hurting the franchise. You are hurting the people who are supposed to be your teammates in this. You are a disruptive force right now.
And if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
You almost wish they had that actual switch that when Leia
just to
turns
turn them off.
Because,
dude, you say one more thing. You know what? If I'm at Kathleen Kennedy, I don't even do that. I'm just calling his agent saying, we're not going to be needing Anthony on any more of the press stuff right now. Thank him for his services over 30 years, but he's gone.
It's Luke Skywalker, mother F. Okay. Last one in the Star Wars movie news.
So our last one in the movie news is Jermaine's theory about the Vader clone. We talked about this a little bit earlier when we mentioned that Hayden Christensen may be coming back. There's so many rumors surrounding the fact that Kylo Ren is obsessed with Vader. Could this possibly be that his ultimate goal is to clone Darth Vader?
Yeah, and we bring this up because Jermaine Lucier is a friend of the show. He's been on...
Oh, yeah. He's been on several of our shows many times.
He's been
Love
on
Jermaine.
This show. He's been on Movie Talk. And he's a diehard Star Wars fan, just like us. And he's a tremendous writer. He's put together all his facts. Is it a possibility? Sure. Do I hope that it's true? Absolutely not. I do not want to see a Darth Vader clone. It's like, have faith in Captain Phasma. Have faith in Kylo Ren. Have faith in Snoke. we don't need Vader running around again. I don't want to see him as a clone because then it turns into this clone story. I don't need that. I don't want that. I just want to have villains. I don't mind flashbacks. Flashbacks of Vader will be cool. I hope we see him a lot in Rogue One. I love seeing him in Rebels, but I don't need to see a clone of Vader.
Would it be kind of interesting though, because we talk about like Batman v Superman, and then them possibly using some of the genetics to create another thing that ends up becoming something totally different.
You get so murky.
There could be a possibility, this is the only way it would seem interesting to me, is that it's if the goal is to create a clone of Vader, maybe doesn't happen at the end, but we're not sure of the first film, and then something comes back later, and it's not necessarily the Vader that we know. That could be interesting. The other part that I think does make me think that this potentially has some validity behind it is the picture that came out of Kylo Ren with all of the old Stormtrooper suits behind him, where it wasn't the new Stormtroopers. I forget when this picture came out. But I remember it just made me think of like the old samurai temples where they have all the samurai suits standing. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if he is with the old Stormtrooper suits and is possibly looking into how those clones were created and how they did that, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I don't believe the theory. I don't buy into the theory. However, much like the Hayden Christensen story, there are enough seeds here that would make me go, I'm not going to call you crazy for thinking it. Let's consider this. If you had a main story plot point in this that we have discovered, this is the, what do they call it? The Resistance now.
Yeah.
We have discovered that somebody at Snoke, through his agent Kylo Ren, they are trying to resurrect or recreate or whatever Darth Vader. Now, think about that as a story point in terms of Lord of the Rings. That is the impetus of the whole story of Lord of the Rings, is that the return of Sauron and them trying to prevent Sauron getting that ring to fully come back as his full bad self. And you could see a Star Wars story in which, you know, the older characters, Han, Luke, Leia, like, you don't, like, that's nice, Poe, that you were 3, or maybe not even conceived yet. You don't know what the universe was like when Darth Vader was around. You think the First Order's bad. You think Snoke's bad.
Right.
You don't know what it was like when, and this has to be stopped. Now, so maybe that becomes a story point. Maybe he never actually does get resurrected or cloned or whatever, stuff like that. Now, I don't believe it. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But if you were to come to me and say, this is a story plot in this story, that they need to stop this from happening, as it was in Lord of the Rings, it could be a compelling story driver.
That comparison makes so much more, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, it could potentially go through multiple movies. It's not necessarily that this one movie is the one where he's trying to resurrect him.
Right.
You know?
They do it in episode 8, and that's why Hayden Christensen is back.
You never know.
That's why.
You never know.
All right. It scares the hell out of me. Okay. That's the end of the Star Wars movie news. Now we get to the part of the show I know is Ray, our graphics guy's favorite part, and that is, what's the deal with Canon? This is all the stuff that is happening in the world of Star Wars. This is the books and the comics and the video games, anything that ultimately ties back into the movies. We talk about it. Then there's a fair amount this week. Tiffany, what do we got?
So first up, we've got a new TV spot for Rebels Season 2 that's coming out, and there's some clones that might be in there.
Yeah, they show the clones again, too. This TV spot, I didn't like the beginning. Jedi, Sith, Jedi. It's like a silly music video, and I'm like, no, just show me the cool stuff. And then they did, and they kind of got into it. The thing I took out the most was you see Ezra go flying backwards, and there's like a red saber in the back. You're like, well, wait a minute. It goes so quick. And then I paused it, and it's just Vader smacking him around again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Vader's coming back. We knew he would.
Yeah.
We knew he would, but they're showing him again. We're right around the corner. I know that you and I don't know how much we can talk about yet, but we're going to be seeing some of Rebels pretty soon.
Yep.
Hopefully we can talk about it soon. Really looking forward to this show. John, what did you think of this teaser?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You say we knew Vader was coming back. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know, because when they end off that one series, because I believe it was the new episodes that have already aired, the first couple of episodes, it ends with the Emperor saying to Vader, dispatch another Inquisitor to go and deal with them. There was a part of me that wondered, was that the last we get to see of Vader this season? I wasn't really sure. So to me, what you saw makes me go,
Right.
It makes me very happy. It makes
Right.
me.
He doesn't have to be there every episode.
No.
Yeah,
Just
right.
as long as he's a continuous presence. You don't actually have to physically be on screen to have a presence there.
Right.
And all you need is Vader to pop in every once in a while to have a continuous, ominous presence in this thing. And I was really excited. Look, I've never been excited about anything about Ahsoka Tano, like or Stupid Face, whatever her name is.
Oh, you like her now.
Yeah,
you like
you
her
do.
in this
Well,
season.
but what they have done now in Rebels
Yeah.
has suddenly made me interested in this character to see how that's going to play out with her and Vader and all that kind of stuff. I still believe, I know you believe this as well, this whole season I believe is going to end with Vader running her through with a saber, like, and she's going to save a bunch of people in the midst of sacrificing herself to Vader, and that's the way it has to end, I think.
Yeah.
But she suddenly now became an interesting character to me, besides, Lady Force Stupid Face. I've been calling her for a long time. So anyway, that's my thought.
Tiff?
Our Anthony Daniels of Jedi Council is John Campia. The next one with Canon is Drew Karpyshyn is returning to BioWare.
What'd you think about the spot?
Oh.
Spot.
I thought you were moving on.
No, what about the spot?
I at this point I'm kind of like I don't really need to see anymore. I know I'm going to
good.
watch it. I'm excited about it. The Vader stuff didn't surprise me because I assumed that, especially after the last trailer that we saw, where it was Ahsoka, walking away, and she's going to go hunt him down, or at least delve deeper into that. So I knew he was coming back. I'm excited about it. I don't think there's anything that could come out in the trailer at any point that I'd be like, I'm not going to watch Rebels anymore.
Right. Okay. All right, Tiffany, what's next?
Okay, so next up, Drew Karpyshyn returns to BioWare. I know this one is super exciting to you, Kristian, because of the Old Republic. He's saying that he's not necessarily jumping right onto the Old Republic from the beginning, but that is a possibility down the line. But what did this story do for you?
I jumped for joy when I heard this. I have had the chance to both interview Drew. I have met Drew. This dude is a Star Wars fan, and what he has given us, what people might not realize out there, is that he is the reason that you have a Darth Revan. He is the reason, him and a lot of the team at BioWare, but he wrote the Darth Revan novel. He wrote the Darth Bane trilogy, which is in Legends, are my favorite book series. I mean, man, does this guy know not only the Old Republic, but Sith lore and all. Not only am I excited for him going back to BioWare, because it might mean, okay, we're finally going to get some more Old Republic stuff, but he's back in the family. Reach out to him to write a book immediately.
Well, he also said, he does say in the interview, he's like, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop writing books, that I'm back here. I think it's just like lining everything up for him to be in a great position where it's like when we're ready to do the Old Republic game again, he's already there.
He was burnt out by the gaming for a long time. He was burnt out, and he said it, he loved his time there, but he went on to write his trilogy of books, the Scorch Trials, and he completed that. So now he's back in the fold. This is great news. Amazing news. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it's one of those things where you just realize it's in great hands again. If he were to come back and say, I'm ready to do the Old Republic again, awesome. I think it's not exactly the same, but like even when The Incredibles came back and they're like, we're going to do another one because we've got a good story.
Right.
We're going to do another Toy Story because we've got a good story. I feel like he's not going to come back and do another one unless he feels like he's got a good story to tell. So I think it's encouraging.
I honestly don't know what the big deal about this guy is. Like, there was
Really?
not, other than anything that didn't have Thrawn in it, there was no good book written in the expanded
You're
stuff.
lying.
I'm lying.
Yeah,
this
you're
is
lying.
great
I knew you were
news. This
lying.
is
I knew you were
fantastic. As soon as because there were a couple other
I know,
books I
yeah,
like, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
said the wrong damn
Yeah,
thing.
yep.
As soon as I said there's no other good books. No,
Yeah.
this is great news. And when you can get a guy like this who is the storyteller on his level, and you get him into BioWare again, and you can look forward to what they're going to do. And now, welcome to all the speculation about, okay, well, then what's going to come?
Right,
what are they going to
right.
do?
TV show.
yeah,
TV
TV
show.
show.
This is
TV show.
I'm actually the only Star Wars fan alive. I don't want a TV show, but anyway, I'm very excited about this. I cannot wait to see what they've got in store.
All right, Tiff.
All right, so the next one is Kanan #6. The comic came out. Let's do a little review. What do you think?
Did you read it as well?
I have not read it yet.
Okay, so I think I'm the only one who read this one. This actually, now that where we are in this series, is that Kanan now, we've been flashing back to see him when he was younger,
Yeah.
and kind of what happened. This is almost like an episode of Rebels, because it has him, it has Hera, Ezra, the whole crew, and they're doing this mission. He's got to go back to the planet to where he was on the run as Caleb Dune, and he's got to revisit his history. He sees a lot of ghosts from his past, and the troopers that were hunting him down. He doesn't see those particular, but the memories are there, and it really ties in well to what we learned of him in Rebel Season 1. Like these things haunted him. This is before
and in
Season
A New
1.
Dawn, which you didn't like.
I did. I didn't mind it. I didn't love it, but I didn't mind it.
I'm the one who didn't like it.
And let me. This doesn't take place before. It's during Season 1 because they have Ezra with them. But this series is on par. I'm enjoying it. The artwork. I mean, you can be nitpicky. The artwork doesn't, like, some of the characters don't look exactly like the way they do on the TV show, but who cares?
But it's not the same artist.
It's not the same artist. I don't mind that, but for me, I love the development of this character. This has stayed on course. It has stayed on target. As where I feel like Vader has started to go that way, but I'm loving the series. I know you didn't read this one, but you like the series.
Yeah, I mean, Kanan is becoming one of my favorite characters. I love the development that they've been doing with him. I feel like they have put so much behind him, and he has become such a character in the forefront that I would not be surprised, or actually I would be surprised if we didn't see him at some point in the cinematic universe.
I agree with you.
Unless they're going to do something crazy, and it's like, throughout Rebels, like, maybe he doesn't make it out, but I would be really surprised because I think they're putting so much.
They'd have to kill him next year, though.
Yeah. But they're putting so much into him that I would be shocked if that happened. So I love this character. I love seeing the arc where it's, he is the last Padawan, and seeing him train and figure out how to help people, and does he really want to be that helper? It's like when we were talking about Poe, where he wants to be a hero, but he doesn't really think that he's capable of being a hero because he didn't finish his training. Right. So I love it. The comic is awesome. If you're not reading it, definitely do. Mine's in my car.
And are you? I know that right now you're kind of taking a stance because of there's not enough pages to get that kind of money right now out of you. But as far as when these, because I know
trades.
Dennis is waiting for like
The
trades. So you'll read this one.
I'm waiting for the trades stuff they got, and I am very again. I'm not going to go into all again. I am suddenly very taken with Rebels. Not suddenly. I was from episode 1. I love this show. I still don't believe we're going to see him in the cinematic universe. I believe it depends. Now that put a big asterisk beside that. It depends on what they do with it. For all we know, the anthology film that comes after Han might be set 15 years before the events of A New Hope. It might something like, and we might get it that way. But remember, I think we are still in agreement on this. None of these people have a good end coming.
No.
There are bad things coming to everybody in this picture.
Beatles broke up eventually.
Yeah, particularly to Ezra and Kanan. I think Ezra and Kanan particularly, some bad things are coming. I think one of them turning dark and one of them having a very terrible end.
Okay, what's next?
Next up, a Smuggler's Tale review. Kristian has been so on top of all of the readings. So.
Yeah, I did read this one. I read this one during my my horrifying plane experience this week. This is one thing that got me through it. And I was excited because Greg Rucka wrote it, and I was excited
also
after.
is writing Shattered Empire.
Yes, and I was excited after I wrote it because it's the thing that you and I always talk about, John. It's someone who knows Star Wars, and you don't feel like you're reading Star Wars. You're just there. Like,
it just is Star Wars.
Han popped off the page, and this is a cool story. And I was wrong last week too because I hadn't really read it yet. I kind of browsed through it. I thought that maybe Han didn't have the Falcon when this thing took place, but by the end of the story, it does seem like he still has it, and there are a lot of people coming after it. So this is right before episode 7. But the story itself takes place in a flashback in between 4 and 5. And by the way, Chewie got a medal. Chewie did get a medal. I know because Chewie is looking down and saying, these things feel so clunky on him. He did. Greg Rucka
said all of that?
He's thinking it. Greg Rucka answers the question that Chewie did get a medal at the ceremony, so don't complain about that anymore. I will stop complaining about it.
That's retconning at its worst, though, because he didn't get a medal.
Well, we don't know that.
It.
He put it somewhere. Now,
the other thing I think is interesting about these books is that they're not like a trilogy of books that are coming out. So these YA books that are coming out are just separate stories.
But they tie in, though, because the guy so Chewie and Han have to rescue this rebel leader that Leia sends him to do on this kind of planet, and they have this other woman who is really menacing from the Empire chasing after them. Again, another strong woman character. And this character who Han and Chewie have to save actually shows up in the moving target story.
Yep.
I think he's going to, I can't remember the character's name, but he's going to appear, I think, in episode 7. They made it pretty strong. The way that it's written in both of those stories seems like he's going to be someone, even if he's just like a side character that someone plays, he'll be there during the Resistance meetings. But this is a really great book. I enjoyed this one a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a really nice story. It felt like Han and Chewie doing their thing. You had Han getting himself out of trouble a lot of times. It almost had a mixture of Indiana Jones in there too, in a good way. So this one, if you're reading these books and you're curious about these books, I'd say pick this one up. It's a lot of fun.
The last bit of canon news is Star Wars 7 news, making sense of canon. They did a whole breakdown of the Star Wars canon timeline, which we talked about this a little bit on Far, Far Away this week. It is awesome.
It's really good.
Print this out, go to the site, put it on your fridge, put it on your bedroom door, whatever it is. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we've seen other ones, and we posted one that came from a Facebook group not too long ago, but this is really detailed and updated. Like I said, just go to StarWars7News.com. You can find it there. Like Tiffany said, just bookmark it. They keep adding stuff to it, but it's really good to see where it figures out in the timeline, because I was always confused as far as where Lords of the Sith and Tarkin fit, and the Lords of the Sith is right before Tarkin. It's really interesting to kind of just kick back and look at it.
And it's cool, too, if you haven't started reading the books or things, you can go to this list, because things have not come out in this order. Right. So it's like, I read Tarkin, and now Lost Stars, and then, I did A New Dawn first, and then Tarkin, now Lost Stars. So it's like, if you haven't started, you are kind of in a cooler position where it's like, you could read them in order.
All right, John, before we move on to the Twitter questions, I know that you are midway listening to Lost Stars right now.
Yeah.
Right now, where you're at, how you, yay, nay?
Oh, I'm loving it,
okay,
actually.
Great.
Like it's not on, as of right now, it's not on Lords of the Sith level for me, but I'd put it right up there with Tarkin. Like, I'm really enjoying it. It's a very different kind of story. I'm liking the characters. It's a fun read, and like you were saying, and we said this before, it doesn't feel like I'm reading somebody who's trying to write Star Wars.
Right.
I just feel like I'm immersed in Star Wars. Much like the feeling I got when I watched the first episode of Rebels.
Yeah.
It was that same sense I got, and I'm not done it yet. I will be done it by next Jedi Council, and I'll give you my final thought.
And we're working on, and hopefully we're working on Claudia Gray, getting her an interview with her too, and I think that'll happen. But we'll if you haven't checked out Lost Stars, do it. You won't regret it. Okay, so this is the part where we get to hear from you guys. It's all about Twitter. You guys have sent in your questions. You've hashtagged Collider Jedi Council. We've chosen some. We've talked about them. We're running a little bit out of time here because we're going to lose a Smith Lord soon. So why don't we go through these as quick as we can, but also as detailed as we can. Tiffany, what do we got?
So first up, we've got a question from J_Lion Why is no one talking about Poe? Seems the type for this character is lower than others.
Yeah,
seems the hype. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So if you need them here, they're right here. So we talked about this briefly before. I think that Poe, to me, is just we're going to remember him. He'll be a character that's remembered. It's just right now the focus has been on Kylo Ren and Phasma. Does anybody see it a little different?
Honestly, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people aren't paying as much attention to Poe right now, this is going to sound silly, but follow me here. He's wearing the rebel equivalent of a stormtrooper uniform.
Right.
He's dressed like an extra. And that's all we've seen him as so far. We haven't had a chance to see him do anything or anything like that. But trust me, when the next major trailer drops, I think we're going to get a better dose of Poe, and I think then people are going to be talking about him a little bit more.
Tiff?
I talked about this on Far, Far Away because I thought it was interesting. I was like, it could go two ways. Either, I mean, he came out in the second wave of the Black Series figures. It wasn't the first wave that came out. So two things either he doesn't make it through the first movie and he's not as big of a character as we think he might be, or he's not massive in this one and becomes a character that we follow and they don't want to reveal too much right now. Okay. I think he's a character that's going to continue through and is going to develop a lot more, and we are going to get, because if he's like Wedge, I'm going to be really upset.
I think he's going to be a little more than that.
All right, what's next?
All right, our next one is from Smut.
Yes.
August Strenson.
Mm-hmm.
How long do you think the runtime will be for The Force Awakens? There's a lot to fit in there.
My answer wants to be 2 hours and 25 minutes. I think it's about 2 hours and 2 minutes. I don't think we're going to get about 2 hour movie, unfortunately. I want it to be longer.
I'm guessing 220. I'm going to go a little under your 220. I actually think we're going to get 220 out of this one.
I hope you're right, but I think it's going to be 2 hours.
I think we're going to be more, I want to say like 216.
216?
Because I think it will be, if it's up to 220, it's like, then it feels like people are going to think, oh, it's kind of long. If it's 2 hours, then it might feel like
it won't feel long.
I don't think it'll feel that long.
No, but I'm saying people who aren't necessarily fans, when you hear of a movie and you're like, it's 2.5 hours, you're like,
But you know, what was the official runtime? Did you ever see what the official runtime on The Martian was? Because we just finished.
Martian was pretty long.
It was a long
220.
film, and I'm telling you, we're not pre-existing Martian fans, but the way that story was told, man, that I thought it felt like 90 minutes.
Look
to
at
me when we
Braveheart was
walked
3
out.
hours, and Braveheart doesn't.
Oh,
feel 3 hours.
Braveheart flies by.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Our next one is from Joey Dietz, and he asks, watching Rebels, I was thinking about Ezra's collection of helmets. What's the chance that he is playing an older Ezra?
And Tiff, you and I have talked about this, and this kind of goes back to what John was saying.
I don't know that I
before,
understand
too.
the question.
I don't either.
So in Rebels, Ezra
Collects all the helmets.
and
Yeah.
stuff
You
too,
mean he's
and
playing Kylo.
because of Kylo Ren.
Oh, if he's asking,
okay.
do
He
we?
says
What
Ezra,
if
but
Ezra
he
isn't?
means Kylo
What if
Ren.
Kylo is an older Ezra?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
Now,
Yeah.
there's no way he's going to be Kylo Ren because he'd be Luke's age.
Yeah, the age.
So
doesn't
there's
match
no
up.
way. Now, the other question, as far as could he be Snoke? Age-wise, yes. Do I think that's possible? Is it possible? Yes. But do I think it's going to happen? No.
I'm now of the 100% nature that Snoke is Darth Plagueis.
Whoa.
I'm 100%.
When did that come
What?
about?
I'm 100% that he's Darth
When did
Plagueis.
100? You never give 100%.
You know what? You're right. I should back off that a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to go like 97% that he's
Whoa.
Plagueis.
Wow. Okay.
This isn't something you tell me on the air. This is something
Just
that you
quickly
go.
in passing, he's like, so P.S. he's Darth
by the
Plagueis.
way, I think he's 100% Darth Plagueis. Have you watched or been on this show for the last year?
That's crazy.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Tiffany,
Yeah,
you don't think so?
I don't think
right.
it's Kylo Ren. I think it would be interesting if they do something where maybe it's somehow connected to Ezra because he's obviously a relic collector, and
Yeah.
we know that Kylo is as well. So maybe there's some.
Could just be part of Knights of Ren, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
what's next?
Okay. Our next question comes from Scott Stamper. Why is it that no one has ever told the story of Luke training Leia to use the Force? Is there room in the new canon?
Absolutely, there's room in the new
Yeah.
canon, but let's find out where she is in Episode 7.
And where he is.
Yeah, let's find out first where they are. But yeah, you're right. This is absolutely a story I want to hear more about. Like, once we learn more about where our characters, our core characters are, the canon novels that come out after Episode 7 are going to be juicy and fun, and you're going to have more stuff that's set up. They can't release a lot of information now. Like, even like I'm like looking for little things in Smuggler's Run, going, oh yeah. Where imagine what happens after you see Episode 7. So great idea. I think it'll definitely happen. Johnny, you think this will happen? Or think it's good to.
Here's the thing. I've got a feeling. I don't know that Leia ever does do anything with her Force sensitivity. She is Force sensitive.
Right.
We see glimpses of that in Return of the Jedi. She's at least moderately. She is a Skywalker. I have a feeling. Again, I don't put any stock in this. I'm just saying. I have a feeling something goes south with Luke very shortly after Return of the Jedi, and I don't think he ever gets around to training her.
Right.
So I'm actually more interested in the stories of what happens to Luke after he leaves. I got a feeling we're never going to see her training in the Force.
I also just think, I think we've talked about this. I think it's something that she's going to keep very under wraps and very quiet, that she even is sensitive to the Force. I don't think that she's going to want people to know if she is in this political position that we're assuming that she is in at this point. Right. That if she is being trained, it's very secretive and it's very hush-hush.
Yeah. Okay, what's next?
The next question is from David Fisher. How does Lucasfilm feel about the negative reaction to Aftermath? Will they still do the 2 sequels?
Well, remember that the negative reaction from certain people, and some people have liked it, but it also is the highest selling Star Wars novel in a very long time. I think out of all the new canon stuff, pre-orders were through the roof.
But that's the key: pre-orders.
Before
we knew how it was.
But, yes. And I will say about the book, I definitely was very disappointed with it. Very disappointed. I didn't hate it. And even when I reviewed it, I said I didn't hate it. I think that the story itself, I don't understand why they told that story during that time period. But I think that they may still do sequels. Now, whether or not Chuck Wendig does the writing to those sequels, he might have been contracted to do them as well, too. But I think they'll still go through it, and maybe there'll be new notes. You didn't like him at all. Do you think?
Oh, I hated it.
Yeah, you hated it.
No, I hated it.
Do you think that they're going to go and
Yet
do you think
again,
they're
our
gonna
Anthony
do sequels?
Daniels.
They made
Jedi
Phantom Menace,
Council.
and they went ahead with making 2 more sequels after that. I mean, yeah, and honestly, okay, Aftermath was a bust. So that doesn't mean the next one's going to be a bust.
Right.
The next one could be amazing. So I'm all for it. I do believe they're going to follow through with the plan. Just because the first one didn't really work out, that doesn't mean you should change your plans. Maybe they've got great plans for second one. Or maybe because it was, I mean, let's face it, the reaction has been pretty negative. Maybe because the reaction has been so negative, it's caused them to go back to the drawing board, look at their plans, and say,
Right.
you know what? They're right. We need to make these adjustments. I don't see any reason why they would abandon plans, and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't look forward to another one just because the first one wasn't so great.
I definitely don't think they're going to cancel plans moving forward because of the fact of how meticulous they've planned out everything that they're
Right.
revealing in each book. So it would be crazy if they were like, hold on, all the stuff we decided we were going to reveal in there, now we've got to push into other things. So I hope that they just keep putting them out the way that they plan to. And as far as it being a bust, it's like it still made a lot of money.
It did.
It's just that people are like, it wasn't great. 50 Shades of Grey, weird comparison. First movie, made a ton of money. It wasn't great. They're still making the
That's
next
true.
ones.
And, you know, the other point is that I think, John, you're right. People will pick up the second book for sure, but you better hope that second book's good.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
after the second book, okay, you know what? I'll see how this story continues, fine.
Yep.
And then if the second one delivers, then you can sell that third one.
Yeah.
But if the second one has this same kind of effect, you're going to be in trouble. Okay.
All right, our
let's
next
do-
question is from Dusty Pearson. I feel like we have to see Luke versus Kylo Ren at some point in the new trilogy. Do you agree?
I think Luke is going to be too powerful for Kylo Ren. I think that Luke versus Snoke will happen. I think you'll see Luke versus Kylo, but it's going to be very similar to what happened when Vader fought Ezra and Kanan. What do you
But
think?
opposite way.
Yeah.
I think that we may see it very briefly. I honestly think that if Luke went up against him, it could be totally. Kylo could show up and he's so much more powerful than we even imagine. Maybe there's some way that he channels Darth Vader when he's trying to clone him. Who knows? So I think that if the Luke that I know now went up against him, it wouldn't be a battle. So I kind of wouldn't want to see it because I want Kylo to stay around for a little bit. Do I think that some fighting between them will happen? Yeah.
John?
I do think it's going to happen, and I really want it to happen.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you totally, but I've been waiting a lot of years to see Luke totally bitch somebody.
Yeah.
And I want to see, this is what I want to see. I want to see Kylo Ren be established in this film as a total threat, as somebody to be feared and whatever, and all that stuff.
And Luke does the,
then
"Get out
I
of here, kid,
want
you bother
Luke
me."
to step in, and first of all, I want to hear Luke call him boy a number of times, and I want to see him totally bitch him. Then I want to see him get away. And eventually, I totally agree with you. I think this is going to come down to Snoke and Luke. Or, I mean, maybe Boyega at some point later on. But I so badly want to see Luke make somebody his total bitch because we have not seen him do that in the Star Wars world yet. And I just want to come in as the ultimate badass now. You thought I was tough in Return of the Jedi? Guess what I've been doing? I've been meditating in the Force for 30 years,
Right,
son.
exactly. On a planet like
Boom!
that,
What
right.
Vader did to Ezra and Kanan, I want to see Luke do to Kylo Ren in this
Yeah.
movie.
All right,
Yep.
last question.
Our last question is, do you think we'll see Yoda or the other ghosts in the new trilogy? They could possibly be on the planet with Luke?
This is a great question, and we may or may not have discussed this before, but this could go either way to me because the question has to be in some, whether it be novel or comic, you have to explain if they're not there, where did they go?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, did they just bail after that party? Like, oh, this party was great on Endor. We've done what's needed to be done. We're out of here.
Peace out,
Or
yeah.
will we see him? Is Luke still able to communicate with them? Is Luke talking to Yoda? Is he talking to Qui-Gon? You know, is he talking to Anakin? You know, so it's
Obi-Wan?
Obi-Wan. I don't think that there are going to be any Force ghosts in this movie, but that's not to say there won't be any in the trilogy, and that's not to say that Luke doesn't end up one by the end of the trilogy.
I think that when you think about all the things that they're going to have to explain and introduce new fans to in this movie, that having the Force ghosts involved in this one, I could take it or leave it. I think that you're right. It's going to appear at some point in the trilogy because if you don't have some characters bite it throughout it, there's not really any stakes for the films. So yeah, I think we'll see them at some point. I don't know who we'll see as a Force ghost, but I think we definitely will get some later in the trilogy.
I don't think we will
At all.
I don't think so. But I'm not. I'm at the same time. I'm not going to be surprised if we do.
Right.
But I just very moderately. I'm 60% that we're not going to see any Force ghosts.
All right, that's it. That's the show. That is Collider Jedi Council. I'd like to thank the council who joined us today. First, she is the Smith Lord. Where can they find you, Tiff? Thank you for reading out and doing so much better of a job than Mark Ellis.
I'm Mark Ellis, and you can find. I'm just kidding. I'm Tiffany Smith. You guys can find me on social media: Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat at Tiffany's Tweets. DC All Access, the DC Entertainment YouTube channel. We've got new videos up every day, 5 days a week, not Saturdays and Sundays. And then you can see Kristian and I both on Fandango Movie Clips, Movie Threesome, and my Star Wars podcast with John Roca is on Geek Nation, Far, Far Away.
John, Obi-Wan Kenobi, where can they find you?
You can, of course, find me right here, Monday through Friday on Movie Talk, right here on Thursdays with Jedi Council, on Tuesdays on Heroes, on Saturdays and Sundays on Mailbag, on Thursdays our new Blacklist recap show, on Tuesdays our Flash recap show. My new novel is coming out in December, The Pride. Keep your eyes open for that. And you can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campia.
So basically, you have nothing going on.
No,
Yeah.
lots of free time.
And myself, you can find me at Kristian Harloff, both Twitter and Instagram. Keep sending me the Star Wars tweets throughout the week. I love them. Make sure you hashtag Collider Jedi Council. We try to get as many as possible on the air. Like I said, I love all the Star Wars questions and stuff and conversations, so please keep on doing that. Share the show with your Star Wars friends. I love the more people keep saying, just found Jedi Council. Love it. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Share it.
Share it. Like this video. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.